Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This video is going to be One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, the continuation. And I did a video yesterday talking about what I'm going to be broadcasting here coming up in the next at least hopefully 6 months. And you can check that video out to see the schedule for the videos. I'll be live streaming here, so I hope you'll find this helpful. I was talking about the fact that the Survivor to Thriver manual from the ASCA, Adult Survivors of Child Abuse, a Morris Center program, is really helpful. It helped me out a lot when I started my healing journey. And so, for people who are just starting out, not sure, what it's all about, what could be helpful for you, that was very helpful for me. I don't know if it'd be helpful for you. You have to make that decision for yourself. If you have a therapist or a counselor or a good friend that can sort of help you take a look at it, and you can decide for yourself whether or not it's going to be something that's useful for you. But so that's what I'm going to be covering on this particular show, One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, the continuation, and I'm going to do them. I think I have it slotted for Tuesdays in the daytime. So, you can always check the archives out if you want to. And, if it's not something that interests you, or you just, you don't need this information, then you don't have to worry about watching this. I'm just going to read from the manual. They don't mind people reading from the manual. What they don't want people doing is making money off of it. So they don't allow people to use it for commercial gain, because that's a not-for-profit. And, they want it to go to help survivors of abuse, adult survivors of child abuse. So that's what we're going to do for the next, who knows how long it'll take to get through it. It's quite a large manual. You can download it from the website. And it's the ASCA, like I said, ASCA, Adult Survivors of Child Abuse. It's a Morris Center program. That's the full title of the not-for-profit. The workbook, it's a manual, but I call it's a manual and a workbook for adult survivors of child abuse who want to move on with life. That's what they said. It's called the Survivor to Thriver, and you can download it from their website. That is www.ascasupport.org. And you can get a hold of them there. That's their website. That's their email, info@ascasupport.org. You can give them a call. Their number is 415-937-1854. And it's the Norma Jean Morris Center for Healing from Child Abuse. They put this together quite a few years ago, and a lot of people use it. Therapists and psychotherapists, counselors will use it with their clients. And the ASCA recovery groups use it in their recovery groups. And so a lot of people use it. It's well known, especially in the circles of adult survivors of child abuse. People that somebody actually told me about it. I'm sure that's where I heard of it. And, when I started my healing journey back in 2009, I started looking at information like this because I needed to find out what I could use to help me to get through this stuff. And this was very, very helpful. The very first part of it is this safety first section, but this manual is huge. It's actually, you don't have to print it if you don't want to, but you can just download the Word doc, or you can download a PDF or whatever. It's I forget, it's like 130 pages long or something, or 115 pages long. So it's a large manual to go through. It takes time to go through it. And I know when I was looking at it, it took months and months and months just to go through it, because I was actually answering the questions that are there and going through the material and really working through it and thinking about, the different, issues that they were bringing up. So I found it very helpful. And they have, I'll just give you an idea. Chapter 1, it's called the ASCA Step Work Program. It's an introduction to it. And then responsible recovery, responsible therapy. It talks about, in chapter 2, it's safety first. And that's very important for people if you're just starting out on your healing journey. Most, survivors, if you haven't done a lot of healing work on your own, they suggest that you don't. You should have a partner, a support group, therapy, counselor, or somebody who can go through this stuff with you. They'll talk about that in this safety first section. And it is important because, you don't want to like go backward in your healing journey, or go backward. And if you're feeling unsafe, if you're feeling um, that you can't cope and that you might hurt yourself or you might hurt somebody else, you've got to get help right away. You just have to make a call to a crisis line, 911. Call somebody. Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt somebody else. So that's why it's so important to get, find out about the safety first before you start on this stuff, because you want to make sure you are safe enough to do it. I have Melissa here. Hi, Melissa. How are you? I hope you're having a good day. And it's the weekend. Yay. Well, starting tomorrow. Um, I love Fridays. Anyway, I've always loved Fridays. And even if I'm not working, it's a good day. So it's the weekend is coming. So yeah, this is quite interesting. This it's got safety first. It also has creating your plan for safety first. How to create a plan. If you're not safe, if you're in let's say you're in an abusive environment, let's say you're still being abused, or you have the potential to be abused, there's a safety plan you can actually make. Many survivors of like domestic violence have to have a safety exit plan in place, because to save their lives or save their children's lives, it's very important. So they do talk about this stuff first, and I think that's really important. And they also list self-soothing activities, living safety first, a final note. Chapter 3 is assessing the child abuse. This is where it starts getting really hairy. Heavy duty. It's like, I remember when I first started going through this stuff, it was the first time I had ever dealt with any of this stuff, and I was, it was hard for me to go through this stuff. So that's why it's so important to make sure that you're safe enough when you're doing these things. They cover, what is child abuse, what are the adult repercussions of child abuse, and handling feelings, and then the conclusion. They also have the step work in here, and the table of contents. They have step 4, stage 1, remembering, and stage 2, which is chapter 5, that's mourning, like mourning and grieving, chapter 6, stage 3, healing, and then the ASCA stages and steps is the very final part of it. So it's a great workbook. I highly recommend it. I still use it and still look through it once in a while. And there's a question in the chat, and where can I get the book on healing? This particular book that I'm looking at, it's a free download, and you can download it from the ASCA, Adult Survivors of Child Abuse and Morris Center program, and that is, I can pop the link in the chat there. Let me just grab that for you. The website is www.ascasupport.org. And this is a free manual. It's free for anybody who wants it. If you don't want to like download it or print it, you can actually just read it right online as a web page. They've got it set up in just about every way so people can see it. You can order it. I believe that you can order it if you have to. And but if you're like, you don't have to download it to read it. You can read it right as a web page, and just clicking on the links on. So if you have a cell phone, internet on your cell phone or whatever, you don't have to download it. You can just read it right online. It's just like looking into anything else online. It's very, very helpful. And it's free, and they always want people to share it. Like, they don't mind. They wouldn't mind that I'm doing this. I've been with these guys for a long time. I used to volunteer with them for years. So they don't mind people doing stuff like this, because it gets the word out. And, they just don't want people making money off of it. So they know that I'm not, trying to make money off of this. So they would be fine probably with me sharing this, I'm sure. They want groups to share it. They want everybody to share it, because they put a lot of work into this manual. And it really worked, for years actually, to develop this manual, and with many different people involved, so that it could be the best workbook that they could put out, the best that they could do. And I think it's wonderful. It's back in 1999, they said the Morris Center began to promote the ASCA program nationally through the World Wide Web. So that's going way back to before the year 2000. So they've been around for a long time, these guys, and the work that's being done is wonderful. So chapter 1, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to read through this, and for most people, it may not be interesting, but for adult survivors of child abuse, this is really good stuff. And they jump right into the safety first part, and then we'll get right into the other stuff. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And every Tuesday, we'll do like an hour show. And I'll be here every Tuesday, same time, same place. And if you can't catch the live stream, you can just check the archive if you want to check it out and see what it's all about. Chapter 1, ASCA Step Work Program, the introduction. Welcome to our Survivor to Thriver manual. The Norma J. Morris Center for Healing from Child Abuse, or the Morris Center they call it, in collaboration with J. Patrick Gannon, PhD, the Morris Center's former clinical consultant, has created this manual as part of its program of services for adult survivors of physical, sexual, and emotional child abuse. Virtually since ASCA began in 1993, participants have asked for a workbook or manual to be used as part of their recovery process. In his 1989 book, Soul Survivors, A New Beginning for Adults Abused as Children, Dr. Gannon outlined a 3-stage alternative recovery model that was the blueprint for ASCA. But that book is no longer in print. Consequently, the Morris Center has taken portions of Dr. Gannon's earlier writings, revised and updated them to reflect the ASCA program as it operates today, and added significant explanatory material. The result is before you. This manual is designed to complement your ASCA meeting participation. So use it individually, but as a supplement to regular ASCA meeting attendance. They said, of course, you're welcome to bring your manual to meetings with you, but you will not find any exercises or sections that are specifically keyed to meeting participation. You will first find a chapter entitled Safety First, designed to help you evaluate your present level of safety and stability and establish a firm footing on which to begin your recovery journey. It says this is followed by a lengthy chapter on the types of child abuse and some of the ways the consequences of child abuse can affect your adult life. Chapters 3, 4, and 5 correspond to stages 1, 2, and 3 of the ASCA program, respectively. So each chapter contains a section of each of the 7 steps that make up that particular stage. So each section includes a discussion of the step and its role in recovery, and some exercises, survival tips, and resource material to help you work through the issues. They said, it is our hope that you will use the questions, exercises, and suggestions included with each of the steps as a framework for your ASCA participation. And using the contents of the manual in this way will bring an immediacy and concreteness to your ASCA shares, and one that will help both you and your fellow survivors to achieve some clarity about the particular step and what role it plays in your recovery. And so they want people to use it along with an ASCA meeting. So I used to belong to the meetings. And hi, Sis Jackson. How are you? Oh, well, I thank you for your kind words. I know, I just know how hard it is. I've been a part of many survivor groups myself, just as a participant. And I know there's so many of us out here, so I just figure, why not? Just be one more voice, one more place people can at least get validation and know that, what they went through, they didn't imagine it, and that they didn't deserve it. And that even if nobody else believes them, I do, because I know, so many people like to deny abuse. And so, I just really wanted to be one more person out here. And I figured I really don't have a lot going on. Even if I did, I used to cram these shows in like before I went to work in the morning. Like I used to have to leave at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I have to do a show before 6 in the morning. Sometimes I'd do one when I got home from work because I'm just kind of, I want to reach people with the time that I have left. If I can reach somebody out there who just needs to know that somebody cares. And, there are a lot of caring people out there, but I'm one, I do care. And so, so many people cared about me, as I started my healing journey. I just want to pass it along. So thank you very much. I'm glad you could be here. And so this is workbook they want you to use along with your, like if you're part of a recovery group, ASCA support group, and they kind of, they benefit each other, right? Using the book with the group, but you can do it on your own because I did. I actually went through the book first before I even joined a meeting, so because it took me a while to get around to, wanting to actually participate in those meetings. So, it's You can do it on your own, but they do suggest checking out the safety first section, and that's kind of what we're going to look at next. They said that there are good reasons for encouraging you to use this manual in conjunction with attending meetings or participating in our online meeting at www.ascasupport.org. And one of the benefits of attending ASCA meetings is experiencing the sense of community that develops between survivors who are discovering that they are not alone in their abuse experiences and recovery efforts. The carefully structured ASCA meeting formats make it easier to share experiences and to start to trust others, both key parts of breaking out of the isolation that characterizes most survivors' lives. And the skills that you practice and observe in ASCA meetings often is not always, if not always, will prove valuable in your interactions in the larger world. While there is much to be gained from using the manual individually, your recovery will be more balanced and we believe more rewarding if you also take advantage of the group experience afforded by ASCA meetings. For these reasons, we encourage you to use this manual as an adjunct to attending ASCA meetings and individual or group psychotherapy if you have these. So ASCA is a support program with an individual and group component. It is not professional psychotherapy, nor is it intended to take the place of individual or group therapy. Unlike some other self-help programs, though, ASCA does not hold an anti-therapy or anti-professional stance. In fact, the Morris Center believes that ASCA works most effectively in conjunction with individual or group therapy, and we encourage survivors to combine professional consultation and ASCA if at all possible. So the last section of this chapter talks a little bit more about the role of therapy, finding a good therapist, and the recovery process in general. So they talk about ASCA style. What is ASCA? As you probably know, if you're attending ASCA meetings, ASCA is a support program with several unique features. First, it is psychologically based and was created expressly to address the particular needs of adult survivors of child abuse. It says, to our knowledge, it is the only program that provides a psychological framework for the complex process of healing from child abuse and moving on with life. ASCA combines elements drawn from the recovery movement, programs such as Alcoholics Anonymous, with a theoretical approach that emphasizes recognizing and resolving past pain, identifying maladaptive coping behaviors, and developing new skills that foster self-esteem and healthy relationships. Second, ASCA meetings, which follow carefully scripted meeting formats, are run by lay facilitators, themselves survivors, who have received training to help them handle the problems that may arise in meetings and to provide a safe, structured environment for fellow survivors. That's what's so important about this type of stuff. It's like some support groups don't run like that. And, it's kind of tough, for survivors of abuse because, if the group isn't run in a safe manner, then people can end up getting hurt all over again. And you don't want that. So the whole idea is you got to feel safe, especially when you're divulging information that's very, very personal, very, very hurtful and traumatizing. And you need to be in a safe environment where you're not going to be judged. No one's going to be allowed to make a derogatory comment. No one's even going to be allowed to actually to make a supportive comment. The format that they use is really quite interesting on their shares. I don't know if any of you have been to an ASCA meeting, but it just allows you to share with no repercussions. So it's a safe place to share. No one's allowed to judge or make any type of horrible comment that might make you uncomfortable. So it's just really important. And trust issues are hard for most people who have been abused. That that wounding is, it's so severe. Really, it's hard to open back up and trust people. You really can't trust. Like I wanted to be able to trust people, and because I wanted people to trust me. This was years ago when I was starting my healing journey. I really realized that I wanted to be able to be trusted. I want to be responsible for my behavior. And that's what I talk a lot about on my shows, behavior type stuff, because, I want to be responsible for my behavior. And I want people around me to be responsible for their behavior. I want people to trust me. I want to trust them. But you really can't trust everybody. And so you do have to be careful. And it's not a good idea to just trust anybody. No, because you can't, right? Because there's people out there that will hurt people and they don't mind. They're perfectly happy you're hurting somebody in any way, and in any way, shape, or form, and they don't care. And so you don't want to be re-victimized, and that's a big thing for survivors, not to be re-victimized. And you can be, like even in some survivor groups, and that's why ASCA, the Survivor to Thriver workbook here was saying, you don't want to be re-victimized, not even in a support group. So that's why they have this format, and they stick to it. We'll be looking at it some more, but they really, when you're like, I used to facilitate one of these groups, and you have to stick to it. And people would get grumpy. They'd be like, "Well, how come we have to stick to the format?" It's like, it's for safety reasons. That's why. You can't. Some of the groups don't operate that way, and survivors end up being, um, hurt all over again, and then they don't want to reach out to anybody. So that's not good, right? And it's tough. It is tough. And I didn't trust therapists. I didn't go the therapy route. I really trusted safety in numbers. That's why I went to anonymous support groups. I wanted the safety in numbers because that, for me, that was much more safe than going to a therapist who might try to tell me how to feel. I'm like, no, don't tell me how to feel. I'll tell you how I feel. Don't judge me. It's like, unless you were there, man, don't say anything. It's kind of like, unless you find a therapist who understands child abuse, not a good idea. There's a lot of therapists out there that don't have a clue how to help a survivor of abuse. It's not their field, it's not their forte, and yet they'll take you on because they want the money. So you need to find out what their background is. If you're going to search out a therapist or a counselor, find out how much work they've done with adult survivors of child abuse, whether or not they were successful in helping these people, and um, find out about them before you actually start going to them, because you don't want to be, uh, you know, wounded again, right? And end up in wasting your time with a therapist who can't help, then having to try all over again. I've seen this. I've heard survivors talking about this. Many survivors over the years have said, they didn't find one that knew anything about child abuse and couldn't really help them, and were making horrible comments to them, saying it must have been their fault and all of this horrible stuff. And I'm like, down with that, man. Lose that therapist quick. No therapist should ever do that, and that's not right. So, yeah, if you need help finding support groups, I mean, there are lots of support groups out there. ASCA is one of them. They actually have them listed on their website, and a lot of them are online. There's quite a few online. Some of them are, in person. So if you in your own city, if you want to go to one that's actually in person, you're sitting in a room. Nowadays with COVID-19, I doubt that's happening, because people are, because nobody wants to sit there having to wear a mask for an hour, sitting there in a room 10 feet away from the next guy. It's kind of like, I don't know, I think it's going to be all online right now. So ASCA, Adult Survivors of Child Abuse, that's a good one. Also, NASCA has one. Now, NASCA, they don't run it like the ASCA. I don't know how safe it is. The person running it, I don't know if they actually have the qualifications really to be running it. I don't know if I hope it would be safe. I would like to think so, because I used to volunteer for NASCA. But to be honest with you, I I actually know some of the people that are running it. I think that it's probably okay. But because the ASCA is monitored and it's so well maintained, I trust it a little bit more than I do the NASCA support group. But you can certainly try that. There's actually many out there, and if you want, I can try to help you find some and give you some ideas where to look. And especially if you're looking for online stuff in your own city, you can actually just type into your browser online child abuse survivor groups, online adult survivors of child abuse groups, things like that. And if you're looking for one particular in your city or in your area or in your country or whatever, you can just, you know, browse through, check them out, see who they are, see if they're still running, because a lot of them they'll look like they're still going, but they're not. So you got to look around a bit, right? But there are some out there, lots and lots of them actually. And so I can help you with that for sure. hmm You know, um, what I can do is I'll send you a message, or if you want. If you want to, you can contact me on author Lori Ann Smith. I'll just put my email address in there. And you can contact me, and I'll send you an email with a list of the ones that I know that I've heard of that are trustworthy, because there is quite a few actually. I can't think of them off the top of my head right now, but I know that there's a bunch. And there's one that runs 24 hours. It's a telephone one where you can call on a telephone. They actually run 24 hours, 7 days a week. They have somebody on there. Um, and I can't think of the name of it, but it's I thought that was great. And I actually was um, really following what they were doing, wanting to kind of be a part of it. And I'm kind of thinking, I'm not sure if it's SIA. It might be SIA, but I think there's more like that. So anyway, I'll check it out for you. Take a look and see if I can find something to help. Um, they said that the purpose of ASCA meetings is to allow survivors to share their abuse and recovery experiences, to receive support and affirmation for their recovery efforts, to try out new, more adaptive behaviors, and in so doing, to better understand themselves in their recovery process. So, as survivors come to terms with their abuse histories and develop healthier behaviors and relationship patterns, they're able to test out some of these new patterns. And the increased confidence, mastery, and sense of responsibility that survivors build as a result of participating in the ASCA meetings are skills that transfer to the larger world. They go on to talk about the 12-step program, ASCA and 12-step programs. They said, as mentioned above, ASCA is a recovery program based on psychological concepts of recovery. While many ideas represented in 12-step programs may be valuable for survivors of child abuse, some are not. So, in particular, many survivors have difficulty with the idea of quote unquote surrendering to a higher power. And the challenge for many survivors is to find the power to change within oneself, not in an outside source. So, this is related to the fact that for most survivors, the source of power of control was always located outside of themselves. So, in the parent or other abuser. To find the power to change from within is to break old, persistent patterns. So, that means some people just don't believe in a higher power. So, some of those support 12-step programs, um, they may be uncomfortable with, right? ASCA doesn't incorporate that in there. Some survivors also have problems with some 12-step programs recurring themes of forgiveness, blame, and misplaced responsibility. For instance, that's the Alcoholics Anonymous use that one with their 12-step program. It's the forgiveness, blame, and misplaced responsibility. And other adult survivor groups sometimes pick that up, thinking that that's what they need to add in there too. Be, which is not good for survivors of abuse, because it was never our fault what happened. Never. Let's just get that straight. Some people like to, sort of like to think that it is, but there's never, ever, you know, ever a reason to abuse a child. So it was never my fault at all that the abuse happened. It was never your fault. Um, so some of those groups will use those things where, we're supposed to forgive and we're supposed to take part of the responsibility. Like, and that always bothers me, because I'm like, there's no possible way I'm going to take responsibility for what somebody else did to me. No, no, when I didn't cause it, I didn't do anything to cause it. So, and this is what I'm saying. Some people, so I've actually had people tell me, you must have been such a bad child for your mom to beat you like that, to treat you like that. And I was like, I didn't do anything. I just had this look on my face. Well, I can't help it. That's the look that I have. I can't change my face. Like, I mean, what am I supposed to do? Like, go out and get a face transplant and like reshape my face? It was a way she could find a real easy way to abuse me when I came in the room, because she was like, "You take that look off your face." And I didn't have a look on my face. This was my face. I couldn't really do anything about it. I was like, "What look? What look?" So traumatizing for sure. And the thing is that abuse is never a child's fault. Never. A child could never do anything bad enough to warrant abuse. Abuse is a choice that people make for many reasons. We'll go into it. We'll talk about it. They do talk about some of it here in this manual. I actually know quite a bit about it, just because of the studies that I've done, and why people abuse. And it's not okay. Never was okay what happened to us. We did not deserve that. So, we don't want to get involved with a support group that's going to have us running around taking responsibility for the abuse and all of this. It's like, no, I could see right through that stuff. I'm like, no, 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 sorry. So I like I like this ASCA, Adult Survivors of Child Abuse, because it's really geared to protecting you as a survivor of child abuse, to keeping you from being re-wounded, re-victimized. So important, right? And I've got Jersey Girl here. Hello. And that's great. Well, that's good. And you know, I actually know a lot of survivors who have gone through and done both 12-step recovery programs at the same time. And that's a lot of work. So I commend you. My heart goes out to you. It's so hard. It really is. And I would just encourage you to keep going. Don't give up. Not ever, not ever, not ever. No. We so deserve to have a better life, and we so deserve to be good to ourselves and to, find peace and to enjoy this life and not hurt ourselves and, not be, carry this woundedness to our death. I mean, how horrible, you know what I mean? So, and I mean, I've seen it done in my own family. So that's why I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm just not. I'm going to get help. And that's the smartest thing I ever did, let me tell you. Good. I'm not giving up ever. Not ever, not never. That's right. Yep. Good. I'm glad because I'm not either. I don't care how hard it gets. I don't care how hard it gets. I'm just going to keep going, you know? So that's what we have to do because it is hard. This stuff is very, very hard. It's the hardest stuff we'll ever do is dealing with this stuff. And that's why many times people don't deal with it. I didn't deal with it till the age of 42. It almost took my life. Um, and I decided, no, 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 I can't go that way, man. I got to win this fight. So it's been a long road, let me tell you, but I'm so glad I stuck it out. And that's what I want for everybody else, to not give up. It's going to be hard. There's going to be times where it's really hard and it's, you might feel like it's just not doable, but it is. I had all these survivors in front of me when I first started my healing journey telling me, you can do this. We've been on our healing journey for like 10, 15 years and we're still here. And I'm like, okay, they've done it. They've done it. I can do it. You know what I mean? If they can do it, I can do it. And they helped me get through, a whole lot of hard times. So this is the thing. It's we have to keep going. It does get better. It can get better. We have to make the right choices, and we have to care enough about ourselves to make those right choices, right? And we should care about ourselves. Just because somebody wounded me and hurt me to the very core doesn't mean that I should not then care about myself. But I need to learn how to care about myself. And that's why I did these shows, one child abuse survivor to another. I did like 635 shows or something. I did these for 10 years. Well, almost 10 years I was doing this. Um, working through this because I'm trying to learn how to love myself and I'm trying to learn how to take care of myself. And I'm still working on it every day. It's not something that comes naturally to me. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do this. And every day it's a challenge. And I wake up and I'm like, hmm I'm going to care about myself. I'm going to love. I'm going to love life. I'm going to love myself, and I'm going to love others, and I'm going to enjoy this. And life has gotten so much better. Let me tell you. So it is a challenge, that's for sure. So the 12-step programs, they're talking about a lot of people have trouble with, especially surrender to a higher power. So they said also this forgiveness, blame, misplaced responsibility stuff. So they said there's those beliefs are not particularly applicable to survivors of child abuse. Adult survivors were abused as children. As children, they had no control or choice over the abuse, and it was not their fault that the abuse occurred. The abuse was the doing of another person or persons, and many adult survivors do not feel that they should make amends for behavior that was not their responsibility or over which they had no control. It is for these reasons, among others, that the Morris Center believes that ASCA's psychological approach is more suitable for recovery from child abuse. Um, I agree. Well, just for me. Can't really, I can't speak for everybody. For me, that made total sense because there was no way that I was going to take responsibility, for the CSA child sexual abuse. I was 8 years old. What was I supposed to do? You know what I mean? I didn't want that, and I didn't bring it on. This is the sad part. So many people think that children somehow are responsible for the abuse. And it's like, no, I don't take any responsibility for it. So I don't have that problem, but I know some people do because somebody maybe have told them that it was their fault and they believed it. However, this does not mean that the ASCA is opposed to 12-step programs. And one of ASCA's principles is a policy of addition, not competition, with respect to 12-step programs. And they said, we do not compete with 12-step programs for your participation. So we believe that 12-step groups are extremely useful and appropriate for persons facing addictions and attempting to live clean and sober lives. ASCA is deeply grateful to Alcoholics Anonymous and other 12-step programs as the godparents of the recovery movement. So without them, there would be no ASCA. But we view ourselves as a separate program for a separate problem. So it says, how does ASCA step work work? Step work is a process whereby you concentrate on one particular step at a time in a given recovery program. It is really an organizing tool to focus your work on one issue at a time so that you do not become overwhelmed by the number and enormity of the tasks that comprise a recovery journey. So the idea is to explore in a focused manner the issues presented in a particular step without confusing these issues with other issues related to other steps. I think that's awesome. I know when I started doing this ASCA workbook, it really helped me out a lot to just focus in on one thing, one thing, and spend the time that I needed to on it, really going through it and really working on it. And it did help. It helped me out a lot. It says ASCA's 21 steps are a statement of the tasks and issues that most adult survivors face during their recovery from child abuse. Think of them as signposts or landmarks along the road of recovery. So unlike some self-help programs, ASCA does not require that participants work the steps, although you may choose to do so, or that the steps may be worked in a linear order. Survivors often spiral through several steps simultaneously and may return to earlier steps after they have reached closure on later ones. I've actually done that. So I'm kind of still doing that, actually. Or as new material surfaces in the recovery process. So your concept of step work may be to emphasize a particular step in your shares in ASCA meetings or in your individual or group therapy sessions. So the steps of stage 1 are concerned with the memories of your childhood abuse, and you must acknowledge what happened in the past before you can move forward in recovery. So this becomes the foundation upon which you build your recovery. Stage 2 focuses on examining your adult behavior, connecting your present strengths and weaknesses to the abuse you suffered and the coping mechanisms you adopted, and allowing the child within you to grieve the aspects of childhood that never existed for you. Stage 3 involves consolidating your new healthier feelings and behaviors, your feelings about the abuse and your adult goals into new sense of self, and then going out and practicing this new self in the world. And remembering that not all of the 21 steps are going to have equal relevance to your life and your abuse history. Depending on your personal experience, some steps will have a more profound significance for you. And these are the steps where you might want to concentrate your focus. So you might want to work on one issue at a time, particular time, because it's the issue that is most relevant in your life at this time. You might work on several steps simultaneously, and you might even feel that some steps have no relevance to your particular experience. You are the ultimate judge of which steps to work and when to work them. So they go on and talk about responsible recovery, responsible therapy, false memories, real memories. And that's a huge issue. Many people through the years, there's been a few cases where, and I mean very few, where a child has said they were abused, and then it turned out that the facts and that were presented and the reality of it was that the child was not abused and they were just making it up. That is so rare compared to the reality of what's really happening out there, because we know it's a fact. Just look at how many children are removed from their homes from abuse. And then the ones that don't get removed, then are just abused, and then some die or are murdered. We know, no, it's not all false memories and stuff like that. Sometimes survivors will have been told, oh, you're just making it up, in the family. Well, that's of course because the family, whoever the abusers are, don't want that person to remember the abuse as being real. So they say, oh, well, you thought that's what was happening. You must have dreamed it. This kind of stuff. I've actually heard this from people who said that their family members have said that stuff. They must have been dreaming, or, that would have never happened. Stuff like this, not being believed. And that's just really sad. It really is. Because, and I've heard from so many people who are kind of like counselors and therapists and stuff say that that's the norm for abusive types to do that. Of course, they don't want to take responsibility for the abuse, so then they try to gaslight and make the abuse survive the victim feel like they're crazy. It just never happened. They're just dreaming. That's just so that the abuser doesn't have to take responsibility. This is why abuse is such a problem, right? It's not okay, and what we went through. And many times we will never get validation from our family. I know I never did. And many times, even though my parents were brought up on child abuse charges, I still have family members saying, "Oh, it wasn't that bad." It's like, okay. And others saying, "Oh, you just think everybody abused you," even after my parents were arrested on child abuse charges and had to go to court. It's like we had CPS, checking up on us, coming to the house with their clipboards, I had to take my clothes off and they checking for abuse. It's a serious issue. For me, I ignore the naysayers. I really do. I don't pay any attention to people like that who say stuff like that to me. I don't even let it get under my skin. I get I get a little grumpy for a couple seconds because I'm like, you know, I want to say something like bad, like curse words and stuff about that person who would say that to me, you know? And then for about 2 seconds, then I'm like, you're not even worth my time. And I just shut them down. They're not worth getting angry over because they're just ignorant. There's no sense in letting them hurt you. You've been hurt enough and wounded enough. It's not okay. So this is the thing. It's just so important. Um, well, and repressed memories, that's the issue. So many times people have no memories of the abuse, and but they have this feeling that they were abused. I've met many survivors who've been through that, and they just feel something was wrong when they were very little, very young. And they go through with therapists and counselors, and they do therapy, and they do these different treatments and stuff like that, to try to slowly allow some of these memories to come. For the most part, mine were intact. Some of the CSA child sexual abuse I did block out. I did actually just push it down. I didn't want to remember that. So I just kind of pushed it down. And I got a hold of those memories finally, and it was just like, oh, I was at a point where I was actually ready to do it, but I didn't do it on my own. I had two psychotherapist friends of mine help me out, which is just amazing. I mean, I had these. One of my friends was a psychotherapist in Australia. I mean, that's really great. So she helped me get through this. And her friend was a lady who started this program called used to be called Your Envisioned Mind, but now it's called My Envisioned Mind. They always change. They change the title all the time. Anyway, it's a great program. It really helped me out. Anybody wants any information on that? I did a show on that, um, and you can catch that here if you want to. I was talking about it, this inner child work that I did, and it really helped me out immensely. Probably made the biggest difference in my healing journey that I've ever had was having these two ladies do this program with me. It was a working with the limbic system in the brain. The limbic system is all pictures, not words. And so many times trauma survivors, doesn't even have to be child abuse, it could be somebody who's a veteran, from a war, or somebody who's been in a fire, somebody who's been in an airplane crash, things like this, things that are very traumatizing. Um, so it doesn't have to be abuse related. The horror and the trauma is stored in the limbic system, and it's all pictures. It's not words. So you can't reach it by talking it out. So it's all pictures. So they went in and did this meditation work with me, and which then works with the limbic system. And I got a hold of a lot of memories, and I was able to get myself and all of my wounded selves, as these little Lories that I was, to safety. And so it was a great thing. I really, because it helped me out a lot. But that was very nice of them to do that for me. Not everybody has two psychotherapist friends who will help them out. So this is the thing. I was very blessed to have this opportunity to do this. And hi, Lion of Judah, Lamb of God. I'm glad you could be here. And you know, I just want to say, if someone is finding that a program is working for them, I'm a Christian too. Actually, I'm a born again believer. I just don't mix my stuff with my one child abuse survivor to another. And it's important because so many people are hurting and angry at God, and they need time to make their own choices. It's their own choice. They need to make it. You can't force this stuff on anybody. Nobody can force it on me. My dad was a Christian and abused me and abused my mom, raped my mom in front of me, abused all of my brothers, abused my sisters, abused me. And he used to quote scripture. He was a born again Christian who was demon possessed. So people say, how could you be born again and be demon possessed? Well, he wasn't obviously not born again because he was demon possessed, but he was coming across as a Christian, knowing the Bible. And so I had a lot of problems with my, God, and I had a lot of anger. I couldn't figure out why God would leave me, to suffer in a home like this. And so I was angry at God, and a lot of survivors are. So I don't attack people, with my Christianity. If they want to know about Jesus, all they have to do is ask me. I'll tell them. Or they can watch my videos here. I've got a lot of videos talking about the Lord because I love the Lord, but I'm not going to push that on anybody. And I know I didn't want to have survivors of abuse tune me out because I was talking about the Lord. Very, very important. Because I know when I was young, I would have completely tuned out anybody who was trying to tell me, oh, you need the Lord. My dad used to tell me that, as he's beating me across the face with a belt, you know. So I just don't think it's okay to attack people's ideas of what's helpful. I think that those groups are very helpful, and there's good people in them, and there's, the founders, they may have been occultists. There's a lot of occultists out there. But the thing is that doesn't mean that every AA group is full of occultists. People have the right to make the choices for themselves. So, but it's good to pray for everybody. But let's not attack survivors for what they choose to get help with. I chose ASCA support group because it was very, very helpful for me. And, the people in there, a lot of them are Christians, but some of them aren't, And so just because they don't go around professing the name of Christ doesn't mean that they're not believers. So I don't want anybody that listens to my stuff, to assume that I'm going to judge because you're not a Christian. I actually have a lot of Muslim friends. I have friends who are Hindu. I've got friends who are Buddhists. I've got friends who are actually Wiccan. I've got all kinds of friends. And they know I'm a Christian. they're okay with that because they're like, hey, she's a Christian, but she's not going to judge us. She's not going to try to make us feel bad like we're scum or something because because she loves Jesus, right? So they don't judge me and I don't judge them. I just try to share the love of the Lord with them, and that's what God wants. I just try to share God's love, the love that God gives to me, with other people. So I don't appreciate people coming on my chat board here and running down to other people because they're belonging to a certain group. So I just actually won't tolerate that. They don't need any more abuse. So I think the AA is great. There's a lot of wonderful people in that program that have helped a lot of people, and any group that helps people to get through and to, have a good life and to get off of alcohol or off of drugs is a wonderful program. Thank God. And so, yeah, amen. That's right, Jersey girl. And, this is the thing. It's not good to force our stuff on people, and that's why I don't. If anybody who does want to watch my Christian beliefs and what about, especially dealing with the abuse, the Healing Word of Life series, what I did, it's a playlist on my YouTube. You can go to my playlist, check it out. It's Healing Word of Life. I did quite a few videos for that, and that's looking at biblical counseling, coming from a survivor of abuse. So for people who may find interesting, you may find that interesting to see my view. If God wouldn't have got a hold of me at the age of 42 when I was going to commit suicide, I wouldn't be here right now. It was the Lord, it was God that came through. And my God, my higher power just happens to be Jesus Christ. Other people, that's your thing. I'm not going to judge you. I don't want somebody judging me, so I'm not going to judge you. But I don't mix it with my one child abuse survivor to another for the very reason that so many people are so angry at God, and I so absolutely understand because I don't think I hated God. I just was so angry at him. I didn't want to hear from him, and I didn't want to hear anybody talking about him because my dad was a religious nut who used to uh, hurt my mother and call her names and call her the devil's seed, the whore, and tell us that we were all from the devil ourselves. And he was a horrible man, and he was a Christian. So I didn't want anything to do with Christians. I tell you that. I was like, no, you stay away from me. But then I was born again, May 22nd, 2007, and my life changed. My heart changed because all this hatred left my heart and all this love came in, and it was the love of God. Hallelujah. So I am glad about that. If you want to check my stuff out, you can. But yeah, I don't want people doing that. I hope that person will understand why I'm saying what I'm saying. It's not to diminish the Lord Jesus Christ at all. It's just to say that if somebody wants to go to an Alcoholics Anonymous group, that's their business, not yours. So let's not attack people, right? It's not okay. So we'll get right into this. False memories, real memories. Child abuse, recovered and repressed memories, and false memory syndrome are very sensitive topics and are currently highly controversial subjects in our society. Research into the process of memory encoding, storage, and retrieval is still in its infancy. There is substantial evidence that indicates that memories are not stored intact. Instead, different elements of what is considered a memory may be stored in different parts of the brain and then reassembled. So this fragmentation of memory storage may be even more pronounced if the event was traumatic and occurred very early in life. So one of the reasons cited for this was that the portion of the brain responsible for coalescing memory fragments into a single whole does not develop until sometime between the ages of 2 and 4. So this, together with the passage of time, means that there can be distortion and fragmentation of the details of a given memory. Well, I pretty much have memory intact from 4 years old. It is a little bit tricky, but some people have actually had memories from 2 years old. And I know a survivor who actually has memories from about 2 years old. I have some like fleeting memories from before 4, but they aren't very clear. They're very brief, and so I don't really, pay much attention to those. But from 4 on, I have all of my memories intact. Actually, I can tell exactly what happened. So, and if the witnesses were still alive, because there was plenty of witnesses, they would back me up on it. They'd be like, "Yeah, absolutely, that's exactly what happened." So, I'm just one of these people that I just did it for my own protection to keep score because all of both of my parents were my abusers, and I wanted to see who was in the right and who was in the wrong. So I had to keep tabs on who was doing what, and who was hurting who, and who was more right and who was more wrong. And it turns out that my mom was my main abuser, but I actually blame my dad because the reason my mom was my main abuser was because my dad was abusing her, which then made her lose her mind, and she then abused me. So I don't think my mom would have treated me the way she did had my dad not abused her. I was born out of marital rape, and he just kept on abusing her. He was abusing her before they were married. And so, I needed to kind of keep track of who was right, who was actually the better person in the situation because these two people were hurting me and I wanted to find out, what was going on. So I kept track, some people didn't. My sister has very few memories and they're not very clear. So she always comes to me for information because she's like, she doesn't remember a whole lot. She'll be like, well, I wasn't there. I'll be like, yes, you were. You were there. She'll be like, what was I doing? I'll be like, well, you were sitting on the bed. You know what I mean? So I could tell her exactly what she was doing, probably even pick out what she was wearing. That's how clear my memories are, going way back, 5, 6, 7 years old. And after that, I really have very clear memories. So, just one of those people that kept track of all that. But not everybody has those clear memories, and that's okay. Some people have said to me, I've actually had survivors of abuse say to me, well, I must have really, not been abused because I can't get a hold of all the memories. And I'm like, that doesn't necessarily mean that. You have to work with a therapist or a counselor Eventually those memories may come to surface, or they may never, but it could be for your protection. I believe that sometimes memories don't come to the surface. The brain doesn't allow it because we're not ready for, to handle that. And this is where very, very important. I think it took me till the age that it took me till to be able to deal with this stuff. And that was old, for like 45 years old, 44, 45, that was 10 years ago. So it just tells you not everybody gets to work through some of this stuff at an earlier age. Sometimes it comes later, and sometimes it never comes. Some people, never get a hold of those memories, but that doesn't mean anything. Most people know if they've been traumatized or not. It's something that you know. It's an internal thing. So I don't pay much attention to what they have to say about not remembering and stuff like that. Um, because I know that there's only a small percentage of people that have ever lied about abuse. Most people don't bother because people would think, why would it matter? Why would you even want to say that you're abused if you weren't? It's not like you're going to get surprised if you say you're abused. Usually you get looked down on, you can't get a job. Nobody wants to be around you once you tell people you've been abused. They're like, oh, you're a loser. And this is the truth. I've lost so many friends over it. I don't think I've lost any jobs over it, but it hasn't helped me get a job, that's for sure. People look at me like, I don't even tell people I've been abused when I'm looking for a job. Are you kidding? They wouldn't hire me. They'd be like, oh, no, we don't want her and her problems, her wah. So, I mean, it's still such a problem for society. People don't want to hear about it. They don't want to know about it. Well, too bad, because there's, 60 billion of us out here. So, there's some of us that are, willing to speak up about this stuff, and I don't care. So, we deserve so much better. And the next section that they talk about is choosing a therapist and safety first. That's a little bit of a lengthy, and confronting my abusers. And then the next chapter is safety first. So that's going to be very good to look at, the safety first, because we have to make sure that we're not, feeling that we might hurt somebody, hurt ourselves. If you're going to work on this workbook, you need to make sure that you're safe enough to do it, right? And so we'll take a look at that next time. I've been on for about an hour, so I guess that's about it for this show. And like I said, take really good care of yourselves. You so deserve so much better. I know I did. We did not deserve to be abused, and it's not okay what happened. It's not okay, and it's up to me every single day to make the right choices for myself. To do what I need to do to have a good day. And so that's what you need to do too. Whatever it is. And if you don't know how to make those choices, or you need help, that's when you have to reach out. That's what I started doing. I started reaching out because I'm like, wow, I need help. I seriously, that was a long time ago now, 14 years ago, but, or at least, yeah, roughly 14. And, I'm glad that I did. I'm so glad, because I met a lot of really awesome people that have been so helpful to me. And so that's what I wish for you, that as if you start to reach out to, trustworthy people, adult survivors who are trustworthy, and, get some help, and maybe even join an online anonymous support group, just talking to people that know where you've been. They know how hard it is. They can help you. They can help you find resources and all sorts of things, that you'll start to feel better, and you'll start to make progress. And then pretty soon you'll start watching that progress. Wow, I've made progress after a year or two. It's like you start noticing life starts to get much better, and you start making better choices for yourself, which is really important. And learning to love ourselves, and appreciate ourselves for who we are, with the scars, with the wounding. It's not about trying to be somebody else. That's why I refuse to dye my hair and put fancy nail polish on and try to be somebody else. I'm trying to learn how to love me with the scars, and the sort of gray thinning hair. And I'm 55. There's not much I can do about that. So it's kind of like, I'm just learning how to love myself as I am. So I didn't want to present somebody else on here and say, oh, look at me. You know what I mean? No, because that's not me. This is me. And it's so important for me for people to see the real me, because, it's the real me that was so horrifically abused, right? So I'm learning how to love that wounded part of myself. And it's been a long, hard road, let me tell you. Years and years of some really tough days and nights. So I know how hard it is. And, I'll be back on live. Actually, I've got my schedule on the last show that I did from last night. I'm going to actually do this one once a week on Tuesdays, I think. Um, I think that's going to work like Tuesdays in the daytime, but you can always catch that in the archive if you want to, if it doesn't work for you for the date and time. But this particular show, if you'll do once a week, 1 hour, and then I've got some other shows too that I'm going to be doing as well through the week. So my schedule, I did put it on that last show that I did, the last live stream from yesterday, and I stuck it down in the bottom there, little schedule. You can check that out if you want to. Because I don't remember now. I have to look. I have to look what I wrote down, and I don't want to change screens because I'm going to lose my broadcast here. So, so I'll if you look on that yesterday's show, you can see it there. And but yeah, no, it's so important. We need to learn to love ourselves as we are. We can't be somebody else. You know, that's what happens to a lot of people taking on false identity and trying to be somebody else. And it doesn't work. It doesn't hold. It doesn't last. Right? And it's always this fight to find out, how you can actually maintain that other identity. I'm not talking about DID. I'm talking about creating a false image of yourself so that people will like you. I just figure, I need to learn how to love myself for who I am, with the scars and the wounds and the woundedness and all my past, and what I've been through. I need to learn how to love myself. And in order to do that, I have to be real. And so that's why I came on here just as myself. So that people would see the real, wow, this is real. And so, yeah, we have to be okay with ourselves, with all the imperfections and all the troubles and all the problems. At the end of the day, we have to learn how to care about ourselves. So that's what I wish for you. And I hope you have a wonderful night or a wonderful day wherever you're at around the world there. And you check my schedule out from yesterday's show, and you can see it in the comment section there. I did list the times and the dates and stuff. And I'll be once a week doing all of those shows. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, you can catch it. I do have playlists here for all of those. So if you want to see some of the past ones I did, just to see what it's all about, you can take a look, because I'm picking up and continuing on from where I left off. This is kind of new. This one child abuse survivor to another, the continuation. The one child abuse survivor to another is not new. This is all survivor, adult survivor material. But this is the continuation. I'm just doing the survivor to survivor workbook so people can see what it's all about. So take care. I wish you all the best. And I hope to see you again really soon. Thanks again for all of your comments. I'm trying to actually reply to everybody. So it's taking me time. And, because I have so many people commenting on my videos, and I really appreciate it. I read all of them, and I don't just rush through it. I really think about this. People are sharing their stories with me and sharing their pain with me. And it's so hard to do that, to open up to a stranger. And I would say, if you know me here on these shows, we're not strangers. You're my friend. And so, your info is safe with me. Just take good care of yourselves, and until tomorrow, because I'll be back on tomorrow at 12 noon with a Survivor Weekend check-in video. So that's what I always called it. I never knew what to call it. I'm like, oh, sounds good to me. 12 noon, I'll be on tomorrow. So we'll chat again. And God bless you too. God bless you all. Have a good night. Bye-bye.